Then we will have just a nice women chat, huh?
How come Riika, okay, typical Finnish name, but Rakic? Come on, we were guessing. Do you have Croatian roots or what?
Oh, we call him joulupukki.
Oh, so you experienced more Slovenia than most of Slovenians. Oh my gosh, super cool to hear it. Welcome to the podcast Heroes of the Winter, the podcast of the Ski Association of Slovenia. My name is Petra Majdič, and today, we will debate about biathlon, social responsibility, cross-country skiing, and also a bit about Finland, I hope. Huh? Our guest is from the land of thousand lakes, and no, she's not the Santa's helper. But she still doesn't speak Slovenian. Riika Rakic is with me, but we'll be talking remotely, and I'm looking forward to debate with you. So, Riika, please introduce yourself a bit more.
Thank you, Petra. Thank you for the invitation on your podcast. I'm very happy to be here. As you said, my name is Riika Rakic, and it's a funny combination of names. First name, obviously a Finnish one when you double the I and double the K. And the last name sounds former Yugoslavian. I often hear, and often people actually speak to me in Serbo-Croat, and I have to say, unfortunately, I don't speak any. But maybe it could be my next language to learn. But anyway, so I'm here because I am currently the head of sustainability and strategy at the International Biathlon Union. And we, as a snow sport, obviously are very much impacted by climate change. And why is that? Well, because what climate change is doing, it's making our winters shorter and less snow-rich. So that creates an issue for us who love the snow and snow sports, because we have to sometimes go much further to look for snow and maybe find it, and sometimes not even find it. So it's a big topic for snow sports, and I'm happy to be here to talk a little bit about what it means and what we've been doing about this issue and what to expect in the future.
And if we are in professionals aspect, you are for how many years now a member of IBU family?
So it's almost 6 years that I have been working with the International Biathlon Union. I actually joined just 1 month before COVID hit.
Oh my God. In recent years, the IBU has established a comprehensive approach to sustainability. How would you describe the main challenges you faced in implementing the Target 26 sustainability strategy?
Yes, Target 26 was actually the first time that the International Biathlon Union had a proper long-time strategic plan. And one of the things it did was it mandated us to start addressing what does climate change and sustainability mean to us as an international federation. And I would actually say that the beginning was easy because there was nothing. We had a blank sheet, but we had an approval from the Congress, which is where all the member nations come together and say, this is what we want to do. We also had a really supportive management, the top management. They really felt that this is an important topic for us to address. So initially things were quite easy to do. We got people together, we used some experts to provide us guidance. We internally and the management team started looking at what does sustainability mean to us, and obviously it's one of those words that can mean so many different things, but we quickly established that for us as snow sport, it's really about understanding what the impact will be on us when winters get shorter, but also what our impact as a sport is on climate. So it has two sides, and that's what we started working on. We created a plan, a 10-year strategy. We're actually now 5 years into that strategy. And once you have done the basis, we were a pioneer of sorts at that time in winter sports. So we had to kind of define things that didn't exist. But where we are now coming to 5 years after we started, we are actually starting to address those really difficult things, which are really changes to how we do things. It's no longer creating lovely presentations and papers or starting to calculate our footprint. It's really trying to change how we do things. And this is actually where the challenge really comes. I think the starting bit were under target 26 was quite easy. Now we are under a new plan, which takes us until 2030, the target 2030. And this is where I see more difficult topics coming at us. And those include, what if we don't have snow? How do we adapt as a sport? What kind of sport should we think biathlon will be in 2030, 2040? So those are much more difficult and challenging questions to answer.
Yeah, exactly, because you're not only a snow sport, you're outdoor sport. You know, we can create snow in, these big sport halls full of snow, but we are in our main position, we are outdoor sport. So how you challenge that? Do you have any strategy how you will face it?
Yeah, you're exactly right. Our main organizers for the World Cups and World Championships, they are very well resourced. They have snowmaking technologies. They produce snow nowadays that they keep over the summer. We call that snow farming or snow storage, depending on who you ask. So we are really to guarantee our main events. But where we see the challenge coming at us in the future will be, how do we recruit new youngsters to our sport when they live very far away from where the snow is? In our cities, I think most everywhere in Europe, there's very few days that are really snowy. Even up north where I come from, Helsinki or Stockholm, they hardly see snow anymore. So this is our biggest challenge, is how do we ensure that we remain relevant to future talent so they find us early enough, we get them hooked. And that's where we're putting quite some effort into defining the recruitment strategies. We have a program we call Biathlon for All. That's where we take our sport and bring it to the cities. And sometimes it may mean that you start exercising biathlon by roller skiing and shooting with laser rifles. And we actually had a really great event, a new event that we launched last weekend in Munich, in the city of Munich, in what you may know, the Olympic Park comes from the 1972 Olympic Games that were held in Munich. And we actually had 65,000 people.
Oh my gosh.
Over the weekend.
Really? But with laser rifles or classical rifles?
They were electric rifles using electric targets. They did use lead bullets for the 22, so the Olympic competitions. The para competitions, we use fully electric and laser rifles. So, and we also offered, there were thousands of little kids who could take their first go at shooting at laser ranges that we provided for anyone to try. There was a long lines at times.
I can imagine.
To get your chance to try to shoot. So we had both.
Ah, okay. But always I was asking myself, is it the thrill of this sound, effect around biathlon and rifles and shooting, or is it this, this teasing thing that can change so rapidly, from loop to loop, from one shooting to another. What is the thing that in biathlon it keeps biathlon so attractive? Do you think rifle sound, or shooting sound, or this combination, or just the thrill that nothing is decided,
I think as a TV product, it's the unpredictability, it's the drama that everything can change after a shooting. So someone can come to the final shooting in a good lead, and then they miss too many shots, and suddenly they are actually no longer competing for the win. I think as a TV product, that's what the excitement comes from. But if you are, and I don't know, Petra, if you've ever tried shooting.
I did. It's one anecdote regarding that. Yeah, okay.
But I think that's what but yeah, I see the little kids trying their laser shooting part. I think it's the excitement of actually seeing the red to turn green on those electrics or the black turn white in the proper targets. I think it's something exhilarating when you are actually hitting the targets. When you are, and I have to admit, I was a cross country skier like you, Petra, but now I kind of wish I had been a biathlete.
Oh my God, I'm not sure that I want to hear this kind of statement, I'm still, fully cross-country skier. So which sustainability initiatives with the EBU do you believe could serve as examples for other sports organizations?
Of the things that we do at the moment, if I look very specifically, I think we obviously are very focused on snow and making sure that since we have to create technical snow, that's the only way we can guarantee our calendar is happening as planned. We have spent a lot of time on talking about how much we use in terms of resources, how much water we use, how much electricity we use, where does the electricity come from. So it's very important for us that we make that part as sustainable as possible. And I think for every single sport, it's very important to understand what the sustainability issues are that they are dealing with in their sport. The ice sports have a different issue. They create ice in the arenas. They actually put some chemicals into the ice. I think they need to worry about that. I think it's understanding exactly the respective impacts that a sport creates is very important. Now, I think generally for sports, things that we have been doing include that we have been measuring the carbon footprint of our events. We actually started already in the 21-22 season. So we've been doing this for several years. So we have good understanding where our events have an impact on their environments. And mostly that comes from the travel and transport. So people traveling around, either as the teams or the officials and anyone who's there for work, but even more importantly, the participants, the spectators, their travel is actually in the main area of impact. So I think it's important that we really address this and we try to address the opportunities that can be provided for alternative travel. So it's some countries quite easy. In Switzerland, for example, people they traditionally take the train when they go further. They go to the airport, they almost never drive. So it's quite easy to convince the spectators attending events in Switzerland to take public transport. In some other countries, that's not easily available, or our venues happen to be far out there in the national parks that are not easy to get to. So we realize it's not an easy choice, but we then can still work with our event organizers to provide better public transport opportunities. And of course, there are other things that we can do, which we have already done, I think, and some other sports could still review their calendars. So how much travel is there from place A to place B, and obviously avoid very long transfers overseas several times a season. That's not helpful for the general impact of events.
That's the case which I wanted to address a bit more, because it's traveling, the World Cup calendar, it's often so confused, first month USA or States, and then or Canada, and then Japan, or then Europe, and again Russia in past, and like that. We are traveling like crazy. So obviously you already take a look on that calendar. How many years ago?
I would say that the calendar planning exercise that we did for the next Olympic cycle, so 2026 until 2030, which starts now after this season, is the first calendar exercise where we really consciously took into account the travel distances and tried to make the most optimal calendar for all our different series, not just World Cup, but also the IPU Cup series, which is the second level, or the Junior Cups, looking at where does the travel take us and what is the impact of that, and avoid zigzagging back and forth, even within Europe. So from the north to the middle and back up north. So things like that. And I have to say, it's not too easy. It's actually super complicated because yes, sustainability is one of the biggest considerations, but there are other considerations in such an exercise. So such as where do the fans go? How far will they then travel? Where do we have the organizers? Because we are a World Cup, so we cannot only be in Central Europe and go around. We have to involve other countries that are keen to organize our events, including the USA and Canada. But we've basically done a 4-year calendar now, so we've tried to really balance the travel effort across those 4 seasons. So there are many financial considerations as well. Where can we sell tickets? Where does the television want us to be? And what do the sponsors want? So it's a real balancing act to create such a calendar. It's not easy, and it took several months. I think it was approximately 9-month exercise to create those calendars that then everyone could live with.
And also, consideration regarding the team costs, you know, the national teams which are coming from not so rich countries, you know, and they would like to participate in the World Cup. Yeah, that means a lot of costs for them to travel around the world and ate most of the budget for national teams, usually in small nations. So how do you balance IBU strategy sustainability goals with the interest of athletes, national federations and sponsors?
Now, I'd like to say that our common interest should be to ensure that our sport is sustainable over the long term. But we all kind of are basically short-term focused, and the initial question is, okay, what's in it for me? How does it impact my life? And that's obviously a difficult balance to strike. In terms of traveling, we are in a lucky situation at the IBU that we can provide the national teams quite a lot of support for traveling, but we'd like them to also be very conscious about how they travel, and we'd like them to then pick the most sustainable methods of transportation. But then at the same time, I also have the data to show that the team travel is a rather small percentage of the total impact of the events. But yes, I have to say it's not an easy balance. And obviously, I think this is where it comes that we have to look for solutions together. Any next steps where we are trying to make our events and the teams in general more sustainable, it will have to be something that we negotiate together with them, because we hope to inform them to understand what these decisions mean for the long-term future of our sport. But then, of course, there are motivations and interests on a national basis to win medals and to succeed, be on the podium in the World Cup and come back from the games with gold medals. So this is where it always comes to a lot of diplomacy and a lot of negotiation.
Yeah, I can imagine, but on the end you will decide like a team decision, huh? You will try to balance among athletes, federations and sponsors, of course. Greenwashing is often an issue in the sports world. How does the IBU ensure that sustainability projects are generally measurable and transparent?
In our case, I think what we have done is that we are very transparent. We have a large number of documents on our website. Someone just told me they had been doing some research across different sports, and they said that IBU is probably the most transparent of all of them, because we basically just upload everything on the website, and that's what we have done. Or our plans are there. We publish an annual report on what we have done on sustainability since 4 years now. But then on a daily basis, what we're trying to do, and I'll give you an example from Loop 1.
Yeah, please do that.
Last weekend, I really wanted to be in a position to say that we only use renewable energy there. And in principle, we did, because operations, everything that was plugged in on site at the Munich Olympic Park was powered by renewable energy. But then it turns out we needed a mobile station to ensure that we have reliable energy for our television production. And maybe it was a miscommunication internally or what it was. It turned out that the initial plan, just 2 weeks before the event, was that this would be powered by diesel aggregate. Now, our last minute maneuver, we were able to replace the diesel with what we call HVO, which is a substitute for diesel, which is minus 90%.
Eco-friendly, yeah.
But I can't say at this point that we were completely powered by renewable energy, because we did have that residue, and at least 10% of the diesel that was used for TV broadcasts was diesel equivalent. So we are not saying that we were fully powered. We just changed our set that we aim to be fully renewable. Sure, but this year we didn't quite manage, but we are giving our best. We are conscious where we are falling short, and we try to also reflect that in our communications.
Yeah, I can imagine you are facing some challenges on daily basis. Yeah, you have an exciting job, I must admit. But if we go back in history, you led the communications department at the FIS for almost a decade. How did the first steps towards systematically integrating sustainability into winter sports begin back then?
Oh, Petra, that's a long time ago.
Not so long, come on. You are still young.
So I can remember that when I worked at the FIS, the International Ski and Snowboard Association, I started my work there in 2005. And one of the things that at that point we did was the early phases or steps towards sustainability, but at that point it was called environment. And already then it was actually part of my job, for some reason, communications and the environment went together, and we were working together with an advisor. And one of the things we were able to push through in those years that I was at the FIS was that every homologated course for alpine skiing and cross-country skiing had to actually show an environmental certificate that someone nationally had issued, that this course has been prepared and created according to the environmental rules or regulations in that country. So that was already quite a discussion to implement as part of the homologation process, but it was done during my time there. But formally then we didn't have anything that you'd call a sustainability program.
Mm-hmm. And you were part of the FIS Alpine World Championships, or 2019. That was one of the first events certificated under ISO 2012-1. What lessons from that project do you apply today at the IBU?
Quite many, to be honest, because that event, I was able to see the entire life cycle of that event. I was part of the candidacy, the bid 2014, and I was there still writing the final report after the event in the spring of 2019. So it was a 5-year project for myself. So I could really see the whole development of the concept for the event until the actual implementation and results analysis. And for sustainability, I'm quite proud to say that I think that we could still measure up quite well with the events that are currently being done in snow sports in terms of what we were doing for sustainability. We looked at sustainability in a very comprehensive way for that event. That's where we created the first calculation of carbon footprint. And I actually then took that model for snow sports events, and I have applied it to the calculations that we nowadays do at IBU. Obviously, it's an online tool, not an Excel anymore. But it was the basis for me understanding what the impact is that a snow sports event has and what it can do to reduce its impact. Also create a legacy for the community in which it takes place, both social sustainability and environmental sustainability wise.
That's my next question. How has the role of communication evolved since your time at the FIS, now that sports organizations are also becoming drivers of social changes?
It's two different worlds. We're talking about time when Facebook was new. Yeah. And now we have completely different social media importance for our communication. But in terms of talking about topics that are not directly related to sport, that I think has come with the majority that now sports organizations in general have. And it's even almost considered part of their social license to operate, that they take care of other things, not just creating rules for events or competitions to take place or organizing those events. Nowadays, the sports organizations have much broader responsibility to also do good, take their responsibility, both from keeping youngsters active to contributing to general wellness and mental well-being, to then organizing the events. So that is definitely part of their things to do. What I think has become so competitive is the fact that communications departments in sports organizations are also measured by clicks and kudoses and likes and reach. And it's not unlike in the International Biathlon Union. These other topics have to be balanced with the needs of the fans and interests of the fans. So I think we have the obligation to be more socially sustainable and responsible. But from a communications perspective, there's a big competition for the attention spans of our fans. So you have to be also very clever in your communication and in tailoring your messages to your different audiences.
Maybe you will agree or not. I have a feeling that Scandinavian nations, they are a bit more socially responsible, or they are more eager to reach sustainability progress. So how important was collaboration with local communities in sustainable sports projects such as ORE 2019?
I think ORE 2019 is a very good example of where that responsibility for our sustainability program was anchored in the region. The region where ORE is located in the middle of Sweden, it's Jämtland Härjedalen, the region, was one of the pioneers in already committing in, I believe, 2015 to becoming fossil fuel-free region by 2030. So they were very ahead of the curve. And that created us that opportunity to also tie ourselves to the regional commitment. And it ensured that us the support of the different actors in the region, such as the mobility providers or the energy providers in the region. So they were all working towards the same direction, the same goal of reducing impact of everything we do in a society. So we were lucky in that respect. And I think, as you say, I think the Nordic countries have a bit easier to maybe implement such programs because of what they value and what societal pressures they deal with. And that's why you see many communities that are famous in our Nordic sports, such as Lahti. So another example, they also have committed as a city to being, I believe it's carbon neutral by 2030 or something. So being an organizer in such a community also helps you be advanced in your sustainability work and leaving the right legacy that is also supported by the regional and local authorities.
So we could agree on the statement that Scandinavia is the region where the pioneers on sustainability are born, or how?
I'm not sure I was born there, but they've taken it as a topic. But I would say Slovenia is another good example. I see a lot of good work being done in Slovenia. The organizers of Planica World Championships 21, I believe, were also extremely conscious about what they were doing, also left a great legacy. So it's not only in the Nordic countries, it's also in some other, let's say, parts of Europe where you see a lot of leadership being shown in this area.
Yeah, I can see that this manifestation spread all over the world. You know, sustainability is really important. What values have you carried over from your time at the FIS into your current work at the EBU?
I think both of them are obviously international snow sports federations, the only two that we have. And I think a sports federation is always a very particular environment. It's very much about sports politics at that level, less about the real sport, more about the politics. And I think what that forces you to do is to really talk with the people, understand where they're coming from, what their issues are in their different respective countries and environments, and what they are able to do and what they are not able to do. I think we see big differences among our organizers today about their starting points and consequently where they are in their sustainability work. So we need to work with everyone considering where they are at today and trying to just make them progress without forcing them to be like someone else, because they have different starting points, different cultural environment. And I think that's just in sport in general. It's a lovely environment to work in. It's fascinating with the different languages and cultures that come together to do the same sport, but from very different starting points. So for me, that's something that I really appreciate in my everyday life. And it was something I also appreciated when I was working at FIS.
In your opinion, what should be the next step for international sports federations regarding sustainability, better standards, carbon footprint measurement, or structural changes to event systems? What would you advise them?
Do I have to pick one of those three? Or can I say something else?
Yeah, no, you can just give me your advice and I will deliver, or we will deliver it to international federations.
I have two things I would say to this. I think one thing is to focus. You need to understand where you can move the dial. There are some things that are not in our control. They will be more difficult and they will take longer. I think it's better to show progress, not perfection, and just start doing, just start focused work on changing what you can change. And when I say focus, I often feel, and my current work as well, that we are trying to do a lot of things at the same time. And we recently done this analysis that, okay, where do we really actually have impact? And where can we just list a lot of activity? Because the activity looks good maybe on paper, but it's not really changing things. I think our approach going forward will be much more focused on a couple of areas where we can see that we make a difference. And as one, I do think it's important to assess our operations and tackle those areas where we can directly reduce our impact, be it on the energy side that I mentioned already from Loop One, or lead management. In biathlon, we have a challenge with the fact that we shoot with lead bullets, and those are toxic. They are not good for the environment. They're not good for wildlife. that live around our ranges. So we need to make sure we improve our lead management practices. So we are going to focus on things that we can really directly control, while also not forgetting the fact that we as sport have a platform. Biathlon is very big in big European markets, the winter sport #1 in Germany, for example. So we have to also use that platform to keep talking to the bigger audiences, but we can't control their decisions. We can try to influence them, but we can directly influence what we do on site at our events. So to me, that's important to be concrete and focus over perfection.
And what approaches would you recommend to smaller sports organization with limited budgets that still want to operate more sustainability?
One thing is that I think it's not true that sustainable choices are always more expensive. So that taken away, I think, yes.
Good point.
You still have the challenge in small organizations, in particular in grassroots sports, that you are reliant on the resources. You have people volunteering your time. But I do think that there's still an opportunity there to start at the basis and create more conscious, sustainable ways of operation. So that could mean, sharing rides to practice, not everyone driving their own car. Start with little things. Also, maybe when you are getting your new club uniforms, maybe you don't need them that often, but when you do that, you may be able to get something more quality rather than getting something that's breaks down after a season. So there are choices where everyone does decide every day. And I would also highlight food being one of those choices, that we each individually decide every single day, what do we eat? And that's one of the easiest things to reduce your impact of what you eat by choosing less emission heavy food. That means less beef, more veggies, and that's actually also healthy for the athletes to eat some green and yellow and red things. So.
You sound now like mama, but it's good one. But in my point of view, still the athletes should need to be in the spotlight of the sport. So how important is athlete engagement in discussions about sustainability, and which approaches have proven most effective?
Right. When you were earlier asked about the communications, I find that sustainability communications works best when it comes from the point of the athlete. And we're lucky at the IBU that we have athlete ambassadors for sustainability. We've started this program 5 years ago. So we currently have a group of 7 social sustainability ambassadors that we engage with. And just last weekend, we had one of the ambassadors part of a panel discussion where we talked about sustainable nutrition. She is from Greenland and obviously has grown up seeing the change in her home region that comes with climate change. Greenland is one of the most impacted areas in the world because of loss in the ice coverage. We have various other ways that we're working with these sustainability ambassadors to really communicate the message. And I even had some data recently that another athlete did because he was writing his bachelor's thesis and he investigated the impact of our sustainability activities. And when it was something that was involving athletes, he found that the fans also took more notice of this type of activity than when it was something that the IBU did. So for us, it's super important to engage athletes in this. We also provide them training when they're interested in speaking up about sustainability. We're happy to help them to define the message, to address the concerns they have. And right now we are in the process of actually surveying the entire athlete body to see how they feel about climate change in their everyday lives. And hopefully just before the Olympic Games and Paralympic Games, we can publish the results of the survey to see how our athletes feel about climate change and sustainability today.
What about sponsors? Are they eager to participate in this sustainability footprint, and the policy from IBU in general to sponsors? Are you demanding that they should need to implement in their values also sustainability if they want to reach IBU family, or you are still, a bit shy on that?
So the answer here is that for our supplying partners that include different brands that produce skis or poles or even garments or uniforms, we have many partners there. We have over 35 companies that are part of our supplying partner program, and in our contracts with them, we actually have a sustainability annex, and there's quite a bit of work going on in the snow sports industry today for them to address their own impact. And it's something that's been really great to see over the last 3-4 years how that has advanced. The industry comes together now really in concrete work with us. In terms of our sponsors and partners, we do have a climate partner. It's a company called zime, and what we actually just finished last week, it was quite exciting. They helped us put some solar panels on the IBU office roof. So now we are producing our own solar power with the help of our climate partner zime. I think it would be great that we would be able to do something concrete like that with all of our partners, be it then for communication purposes or really concrete changes. Obviously, BMW is our mobility partner, and we have 80% electric fleet now as the IBU's office cars. We hope to have it 100%. Actually, I think our goal was by 2027. So there are concrete things with some of them. I think in other cases, we still are working to find the right implementation of sustainability to each of the partners' area of business.
Ever happened in past years that IBU would refuse cooperation with some sponsors because not implementing sustainability in their values?
There have been discussions, in fact, and we obviously have very long-term partnerships with our partners. Most of them are several years. So currently we are mostly working on making sure the current partners are sustainable or have at least an internal policy and own goals in becoming more sustainable. We have some discussions with our marketing partner that if we are getting new partners on board, we would consider sustainability as one of the things that we want to be aligned on. And we obviously want to make sure that if a partner doesn't fit our idea of sustainability, we would know this in advance, so we don't get into the situation where we have a partner that doesn't fit our sustainability vision.
Oh, great to hear that. Yeah, great. Pokljuka is among the year's nominees for the IBU Sustainability Awards with the initiative Children of Triglav on Pokljuka, which connects sport, environmental education and local schools. So can we get there a bit more on that topic? What do you think? Pokljuka, as you mentioned before, is quite old place on calendar, or I would say, always present on calendar, World Cup calendar.
Yes, and this was a really great initiative that was done. I believe it's even continuing still. That it's a national initiative, I understand, where children in a certain age are being engaged in topics like sustainability. And I think that's the time when we need to also engage in discussion with children and youth about sustainability. And I have 2 kids myself, so I think the younger generations are really interested in these topics. So for me, this project was great. Unfortunately, it was not the winner of this year's prize, but we are really happy that the engagement of Dosi or Pokljuka is also extending to this area. They are a very traditional host of marathon World Cups and even the World Championships, and more recently also the para-biathlon World Championships just last season. So that was again another great example where Pokljuka is really showing leadership and became the host of the World Championships, actually the first ever that were really under the IBU's guidance.
But IBU encourage venue places to participate in this kind of projects, or this is their own decision?
The educational activities, we think, is one of the key things that we need to do. We have 5 focus areas in our sustainability strategy. We have obviously climate, we have sport, we have venues and events, and then the people side of things, which is more the social thing. But in the middle, we put it in the middle when we talk about our strategy, is communication and awareness. And I believe this is key for everyone who engages in sustainable work. We need to make sure that whatever we are wanting to do is carried and bought in by the stakeholders. And educational activity is one of the keys. We are really asking our organizers to make sure that their volunteers are trained, that they also use communication towards the spectators, and if they are able to bring youth and kids to their event, I think it's key that they also leave the event understanding items like sustainability. And this program at Pokljuka is one of those great examples of how to do it in a very systematic manner. And we'd like to share that with our other organizers. We create case studies on all the winning projects or shortlisted projects in our Sustainability Awards program. So there will be one case study on the program in Pokljuka as well that we will then make available to other organizers to learn from.
Mm-hmm. And which practices from Pokljuka or other nominees do you believe should become the standard for future biathlon event organizers?
The educational activities, obviously, as we just spoke about.
Yeah.
Then there's been some really...
Can you be, for instance, concrete? Yeah, concrete, or give me one example, you know, Pokljuka with these children of Triglon Pokljuka, yeah.
By Lenze Heide in Switzerland, where they included free transport by public transportation into the entry tickets from anywhere in Switzerland for the World Cup that was there in December 2023. We have several organizing committees now trying to do that, because we saw from the results of that program that typically 3/4 of the spectators like to drive their car, but when that type of mobility offer was included in the entry ticket, that percentage dropped to approximately 40. Huge difference in the choice of travel. And we are really trying to enable this in many different areas. Another example from Lenze Heide I can also maybe share here is the inclusion of a mascot that was a grouse, a bird. And why was that important was because the bird lives in the national park in which the venue is located. And the bird was a very good communications tool for the organizing committee to find agreement with the national park to organizing the event in a way that was taking care of the constraints that the different wildlife was setting for, let's say, where can we park cars, where can we have, you know, the roller skiing track go. That's always a negotiation that you do with the local authorities as well, and we need to be on our side conscious where where we shouldn't go because the flora and fauna might be disturbed. Meanwhile, we also have legacy importance for the fact that the venue needs to be used after an event. So if we need a roller skiing track there to enable summer training and not just a couple of months in winter, then we have to negotiate and find a solution. And Lenzi was Lenzi was the name of the grouse. He became this kind of face for these efforts to find a balance between the environmental concerns of the location with the needs of our biathlon venue.
What personally drew you to work in sport? And why did you decide to specialize in sustainability?
So I actually started my career in something completely different. When I graduated from a university, I thought that I would work for the European Commission. I realized it's not for me, I'm too impatient. So I went into IT consulting, if you can imagine that. And my first career was completely different. But at some point I realized this is not fulfilling enough for me. It doesn't mean that much to me to have a software system, making a big business more efficient. So I decided to go back to school, and I got a master's in sport administration. And that's how I then actually got involved with working with the FIS. And my first project, you may know this very well, it was developing the Tour de Ski. That was my master's thesis topic. How I got involved in sustainability was when I left the FIS, really. I went and worked in major events. I worked on a couple of Olympic bids, and I realized how these large events, the major games, have a massive impact, and they should have much greater legacies when they leave the country. And that's when I got the opportunity then to apply what I learned from the candidatures for a couple of Olympic bids to for 2019, which we already discussed. So it evolved really from being more of a communications person to wanting to see some impact from what our events have on the local communities.
Super. You are known for speaking several languages. How important is cultural understanding when working in global sports organizations like FIS or IBU?
I think we touched on this a little bit. I do think it's the key. I studied international politics and economics, so part of that initial education was courses on diplomacy and history and understanding the cultural package, let's say, that we all have. And I think that's been key for being able to operate in this international sports environment at the highest levels, because I think I mentioned it already, it's much more about politics than sports, and we're trying to still make sure our sports remain the core of our focus. But to get there, to find those compromises, is sometimes quite a political activity.
What advice would you give to young professionals aiming to build a career in the intersection of sport, strategy, and sustainability?
I think my biggest piece of advice would be to look for opportunities to be involved in an event organization, because that's really where our sport happens. It happens at the events, and it's much easier than to influence the event or the sport when you see actually how it comes together. There are many volunteer opportunities at major events, in particular large tournaments or the games, and those are good opportunities to get your first foot in the door, make some connections. And my second piece of advice would be then networking, because it's a people business. So when you do work at events, you meet a lot of people, and keeping in touch with that network of yours and growing it over time will be key to your future career in sports.
Working in international sport is demanding and often involves extensive travel. How do you personally maintain a balance between your professional duties and private life?
Oh, Petra, that's a really tough question. It's not that easy because sports is a lot of events, and that means travel. We don't see too many women with small kids doing this work, perhaps exactly for that. We have great efforts to get women more involved in sports, but it is difficult to balance your family needs and career in sports. I managed to do that, but I don't think it has been the easiest. I think those days when I started, 20 years ago, it was quite challenging. I see a lot more things being possible now. You can do job sharing, you can do a lot more work from home. COVID made that possible. We have home office, we have teams. I think we are getting there, but it definitely is a little bit of a compromise, and you can never really feel super satisfied. You're not present enough either at home or at your sport organization or event.
Since sustainability is also a personal value for you, are there everyday habits or lifestyle choices you consciously apply outside of work to live in line with your professional principles?
I would say yes, there are. I don't eat meat since over 30 years now. I travel by train. I try to make it a point to take the train through almost everywhere, and I'm very conscious if I have to take the plane, I will try to see if I can at least go by train one way and then only fly one way back. I just did that to London the other day. It's quite a long day to take the train to London, but it was possible. I came to Boku last time by train as well. So I personally very much make my choices consciously. I don't buy many clothes. I try to keep the same clothes forever. So it's best to buy black and blue, I think, because they will always work. Straight crazy colors. But yes, I think it's definitely a personal commitment, and it's made easier because my teenage kids are very committed as well, and they would question my choices if I wasn't a role model for them as well.
Oh, but all these are really good advices, how we can all implement them in our daily life. Cross-country skiing culture in Finland, how this sport shaped your early connection to winter environments?
Obviously, yes. Finland is a country where when you say you're going skiing, that means cross-country skiing, not alpine skiing as it's in Switzerland, I've learned. So I think the connection of Finns to nature is very profound. And I grew up also spending weeks at a time on Girl Scouts camps with no running water or toilets. So I think it became part of my just normal life. And cross-country skiing, obviously the first pictures of me skiing are when I was 2 years old and I was skiing with my mom's wooden skis around the house. So I think both of those have become part of who I am, and I love to ski until today. I don't really mind what kind of skis I have, but I'm happy to be out in the natural environment, and I don't really consider sport indoors to be the real sport.
Oh, thank you. For closing question, a lighter question. Have you ever collaborated or crossed paths with Finland's most famous resident, Santa Claus?
Oh, we call him Joulupukki, or Father Christmas. Of course, because he comes to every Finnish home on Christmas Eve personally. At least that's how I grew up. He would come and give us our Christmas presents. That was a highly rated activity on Christmas Eve. When does he actually come? And then when he knocked on the door, there he was finally. I think my kids also grew up, even if they grew up in Switzerland, they still have Father Christmas or Santa Claus visit them on Christmas Eve. Nowadays, they kind of know that he doesn't come, but he just leaves the presents under the tree.
Riika, kiitos for being my guest, and I'm looking forward to see you in snow. So take care and keep on going your best projects, as I can imagine, sustainability and social responsibility. Thank you.
Thank you, Petra. It was a pleasure.
Thank you. Bye.